Hello everyone. Today we are gonna solve Feb March 24 QP22, that is extended MCQ. So let's start. Question 1. Solid X is heated for 600 seconds. The graph shows the heating curve that is obtained. What is the melting point of X? So here they have already told us that solid X is heating at 600. It is heated for 600 seconds. Okay, what is the melting point of X? So here if you see, they have given us the heating curve. This is my solid part, okay, this is my liquid, and then this is my gas. So here I can say melting is happening. Okay, so this is 100, then we have 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, and then we have 170. So the melting point is 170. Next, which statements about diffusion are correct? Aqueous ions cannot diffuse in water. Second, diffusion is caused by random movement of particles. Yeah, that is correct. Particles spread out in all the directions in diffusion. Yeah, that is also correct. They do not have a specific direction, they are moving in random directions. Diffusion can only take place in solids and liquids. No, diffusion does not take place in solid, but it takes place in liquids. So 2 and 3 is correct. So the correct option is C. Next, which statement about an atom of fluorine 19F is correct? It contains a total of 28 neutrons, protons, electrons. It contains more protons than neutrons. So if we find out, so we have 9 proton and 19 minus 9 is equal to 10 neutrons. So we have no more neutrons actually. So B is not correct. Its isotopes contain different number of protons. Isotopes do not contain different protons. It has different neutrons. So that is also not correct. Its nucleus contains 9 neutrons. No, we have just calculated it contains 10 neutrons. So if you do a total of 9 proton plus 9 electron plus 10 neutron, then you will get a total of 28. So A is the correct answer. Next, two of the isotopes of calcium are represented as calcium 40 and calcium 44. Which statement explains why isotopes of calcium have identical chemical properties? So why do isotopes have same chemical properties? It is because they have same number of atomic number. Okay, so number of electrons is also same, the electronic configuration is same. So both isotopes have the same number of neutrons. No, they have different neutron number. Both isotopes have an electronic configuration of 2882. Yes, because if you see, both of them have same atomic number. So B is the correct answer. Which statement describes the property of potassium iodide? Now you should know that potassium iodide is a ionic compound. It is insoluble in water. No, ionic compounds are soluble in water. It is a volatile substance. No, ionic compounds are having strong electrostatic force of attraction, so they are not volatile. It has a low melting point. Ionic compounds are having a high melting point. It conducts electricity when molten. So yes, it is correct. Ionic compounds conduct electricity when in molten or in aqueous state. Okay. Question 6. Methanol CH2O has a boiling point of minus 19 degrees Celsius. At minus 20 degrees Celsius, the liquid methanol is a non-conductor of electricity. In a sample of methanol, each atom of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen has noble gas electronic configuration. Each atom has achieved this electronic configuration is one of 3 ways: gaining electron, losing electron, sharing electron. Which statement describes bonding between carbon atom and oxygen atom in methanol? Now here, out of these 3 ways, gaining, losing and sharing electrons, we can identify that they have shared electrons, okay, because carbon, hydrogen, oxygen are non-metals, and non-metals have covalent bonding, and that is done by sharing of electrons. Okay, so first of all, let us draw the structure of CH2O. So we have a carbon and 2 hydrogens, okay, So we'll draw first carbon here with two hydrogens. Now, if you consider oxygen, okay, carbon requires total 4 bonds. Okay, carbon is having 2 comma 4. Okay, so it should have total 4 bonds. And if you consider oxygen, oxygen is 2 comma 6. It requires 2 more to complete its outer shell. So we can consider that carbon and oxygen are having double bond between them. Okay, meaning there are two pair of electrons that is shared. So it is something like this: cross dot H, cross dot H, and then we have a O like this. This is the dot and cross diagram. So, first option, the carbon atom and the oxygen atom share 4 electrons, which is absolutely correct, that they have a double bond and they have shared 4 electrons among themselves. So, the first option is correct here. The second option, where the carbon oxygen share 2 electrons, which is wrong. We have drawn the structure here. Carbon is negative ion and oxygen is positive ion. Because it is a covalent bonding, there is no positive and negative ions involved here. Okay, so C and D both are wrong. Next, seventh, the structure of diamond and graphite are shown. Which statement about diamond and graphite is correct? Diamond and graphite contain strong covalent bonds between carbon atoms. Diamond and graphite have delocalized electrons. Diamond and graphite have layered structures. Diamond and graphite have low melting points. Here, if we consider D, of course, both diamond and graphite are giant covalent structures, so they have high melting points. D is wrong. Diamond and graphite have layered structures. Diamond does not have, but yes, graphite is having layered structures, okay, but diamond does not have, so this is also wrong. Diamond and graphite have delocalized electrons. No, it is only graphite that is having delocalized electrons, because graphite conducts electricity, but diamond does not contain. So that is also wrong. And diamond and graphite contain strong covalent bond between carbon atoms. That is true, because they are giant covalent structures. Next, which row contains a description of metallic bonding and property that is explained by reference to metallic bonding? Description of metallic bonding: a lattice of negative ions in a sea of delocalized electrons. First of all, metallic bonding is a lattice of positive ions. Okay, so both description of metallic bonding of option A and option B is wrong. Okay, so these two options are anyways automatically eliminated. Now option C and D, where a lattice of positive ions in a sea of delocalized electrons, that is correct. But let's see the property explained with reference to that. A metal will react with an acid producing hydrogen. And for option D, a piece of metal can be molded into different shapes. So, because of the arrangement of the positive ions and the electrons, it has nothing to do with the reaction and the products that are formed. Okay, so that C option is also not correct. The position of the electrons and the positive ions helps to change the shape of the metal. So when it is hammered into different shapes and into wires, okay, so that property of that arrangement helps in this property of molding the metal. So D is the correct answer. Next, what is the relative molecular mass of sulfur dioxide? So sulfur dioxide is SO2. You can use periodic table. Sulfur is 32 plus 2 into mass of atomic mass of oxygen, which is 16. Okay, and this is gonna give us 64. That is D. Next, magnetite is an ore of iron which contains the ions Fe2 plus, Fe3 plus, and O2 minus only. What is the formula of magnetite? So here, first option is Fe2O. Now, as they have told that magnetite contains Fe2 plus and Fe3 plus ions, okay, but here if you see, it is only Fe2O. Oxygen is only one atom. If the iron ions are carrying a plus 2 or plus 3 charge, there should be some number of oxygen atoms there, but it is not. So this does not comply according to the given instruction. B is again not possible because Fe2O3 is the formula of hematite. Okay, if you remember, iron 3 oxide. Next is option C and option D. So we'll try using the oxidation number. Okay, and we know that all the compounds are always neutral. Okay, so the oxidation number should be equal to 0. Now if I consider that I have one Fe2 plus ion, and if I have two Fe3 plus ions, so the total becomes 8, and I have in the formula 2 oxygen atoms, so 2 into its oxidation number, which is -2, will give me -4. So here it is +8 and -4, so the if we add both of them, it will become -4, it is not 0. So again, this is not correct. For option D, if I have one Fe2 plus ion and two Fe3 plus ions, the total becomes 8, and I have 4 oxygen atoms. So 4 into its oxidation number is -8 here. So +8 -8 is equal to 0, which makes the compound neutral. So D is the correct answer. Next, 11th one, concentrated aqueous sodium chloride and dilute sulfuric acid are electrolyzed using inert electrodes, which row identifies product at each cathode in each electrolysis. Now, concentrated aqueous NaCl, whenever it is concentrated, so at cathode and anode, what you will get on cathode, in case of concentrated sodium chloride, you are gonna get hydrogen. Okay, and anode, because halogen is present in sodium chloride, so anode will be chlorine. And in case of dilute sulfuric acid also, at cathode and anode, cathode you are going to get hydrogen as it is. Okay, and anode you will get oxygen because we are having dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, so product at cathode in both the cases is hydrogen, so it is B. Next, question 12. Electrolytes can be broken down by electrolysis. Which rows are correct for each electrolyte? First is dilute aqueous potassium chloride. So, because again it is a dilute solution, okay. At cathode, we follow reactivity series. So, any element, if we have that is above hydrogen, which is more reactive, will not form the product, and instead of that, hydrogen will be the product. So, at cathode, they have written it correctly, half ionic equation of hydrogen, and at anode we will get oxygen because it's a dilute solution. So first one is correct. For the second one, we have concentrated HCl. So definitely at cathode we will have hydrogen, and at anode we will have a chlorine. That is correct because we have a concentrated solution, and on anode always halogens are preferred. For the third one, it's molten aluminium oxide. So at cathode, we should have aluminium, but they have given oxygen, and at anode, they have written aluminium, whereas it should be oxygen. So they have written it vice versa. So third is wrong. And for the fourth one, we have aqueous potassium bromide. Aqueous sodium bromide, which is at cathode they have given sodium. Sodium will only form the product whenever it is in a molten state, never in the form of concentrated or dilute aqueous solution. Hence, this is also not possible. So, 1 and 2 is the correct option. Next, which statement about hydrogen oxygen fuel cells is correct? Hydrogen is extracted from clean dry air. Hydrogen is not extracted from air. It is extracted from hydrocarbons. The only product is carbon dioxide. No, the only product for H2O2 is water. Okay. The reaction is endothermic. No, the reaction is exothermic. No toxic gases are produced. Yes, for hydrogen oxygen fuel cells, the only product formed is water and heat. 14th. Which statement defines the activation energy for a reaction? So we know that the activation energy is the minimum energy required for the colliding particles to react, and that is the first sentence itself. Next, the equation for the complete combustion of ethane is shown. They have provided us with the equation. They have also given us the bond energies. What is the enthalpy change of reaction when 1 mole of ethine is completely burned? Here they have taken 2 moles of ethine. Okay, we have to find the answer for 1 mole. So we'll first find bond breaking values. So let's find bond breaking. Okay, now here you can see that we have 1 and 2, 2 CH bonds. Okay, and the whole molecule is repeated 2 times. So 2 into 2 is equal to 4. 4 into CH bond, which is 415. Then I have CC triple bond. That also I have only 2. So 2 into C triple bond C is 837. Then I have 5 O double bond O bonds. So 5 into 805 I will get, no, 5 into 498. Okay, these are the only two reactants that we have. Okay, then bond making we will find out. Okay, so bond making, you see I have 1 and 2. 2 C double bond O bonds I have, and I have 4 CO2 molecules. So 2 into 4, which is equal to 8. So 8 into 805 it will be. And for the next one, in 1 molecule of water, I have 2 OH bonds. Okay. So 2 into, I have again 2 water molecules. So 2 into 2 is 4. So 4 into 464. So I will do a total of all of this. Okay. So we have 4 into 415 plus 2 into 837 plus 5 into 498, which is 5828. And for the next one, it is 8 into 805 plus 4 into 464, which is 8296. Now we know that bond breaking minus bond formed. Okay, delta H is equal to, so it is 5828 minus 8296. 5828 minus 8296, which is minus 2468. Okay, now I have to find the answer for 1 mole. Okay, because here I have taken 2 moles of ethine, so I will divide the answer by 2. So divided by 2 will give me minus 1, 2, 3, 4, which is this B. Okay, that is my correct answer. Next. In experiment 1, small lumps of limestone are added to dilute ethanoic acid at 40 degrees Celsius. The volume of carbon dioxide released is measured at regular time intervals. A graph of the result is shown. So they have given us a graph of time versus volume of gas released. Which changes give the results shown in experiment 2? They have provided us 2 graphs, okay, and they are asking us that which results, which changes will give us the graph 2. So graph 2 is below experiment 1 graph, okay, meaning the rate of reaction is decreased here. So for experiment 1, they have used small lumps. So we can say that here they would have used larger lumps, okay. And temperature could be same again. So it is A. Next, in Haber's process, nitrogen and oxygen are reacted to make ammonia. They have given us the equation. They have also mentioned what is my forward reaction, which is exothermic. Which conditions produce the maximum yield of ammonia? Now my forward reaction is exo, okay. And if I want my yield to be maximum, so what should I do here? So in this case, if I go for temperature, already my forward reaction is exothermic. If I increase my temperature, the yield will decrease because it will favor endothermic. So I want my temperature to be low. In that case, I have B and D with low temperatures. Now in case of pressure, if I see, I have 3 moles of hydrogen and 1 mole of nitrogen. In total it is 4 moles here on reactant side, and only 2 moles of product on the right hand side. Okay, for my maximum yield I want my equilibrium to shift towards right hand side, towards the product side. So I will have to increase my pressure. Whenever we increase the pressure, equilibrium shifts to the side with lesser number of moles or few number of moles. So pressure should be high here, and that's only B. Next, Oswald process is used to make nitric acid. The conditions used in this process are a catalyst containing a transition element, a pressure of 10 atmosphere, a temperature of 800 degrees Celsius. Which of these conditions are also used in contact process? So contact process is making of concentrated sulfuric acid, and that we use a catalyst which is vanadium oxide, and vanadium is a transition element. So yes, okay, and pressure of 10 atmosphere, in contact process we use 2 atmospheric pressure, so this is not matching. Also we use 450 degrees Celsius temperature, so even this is wrong. So only one condition match here, which is catalyst, that is one only. Next, hydrogen iodide is dissolved in water. Which row describes the final colors seen when the solution is tested with damp red litmus paper and with acidified potassium manganate? So here, when hydrogen iodide is dissociated or dissolved in water, it forms H plus and I minus ions. Okay. Now, when I test it with damp red litmus paper, it should give me red color. So we have C and D both, that is red, and with acidified aqueous potassium manganate, I will get brown color. Okay, so as potassium manganate is an oxidizing agent, okay, so that is gonna oxidize the iodine formed. I minus will convert to I2, so it is gonna form iodine, and iodine is brown in color. So hence we have C is the correct answer. Next is, which statements about aqueous ethanoic acid are correct? It can be produced by oxidizing ethanol with potassium iodide. So ethanoic acid is carboxylic acid. It is true that ethanols are used, ethanols when are oxidized, they form carboxylic acids, but we do not use potassium iodide. We use an oxidizing agent. Potassium iodide is a reducing agent, so that is wrong. It reacts with magnesium to produce hydrogen gas. Yes, that is correct. Ethanoic acid acts as a typical acid, okay, and it will react with metal to produce hydrogen gas. It has an approximate pH value of 3. So yes, it's a weak acid, okay, that is correct, and it produces esters called methanoates. Now it produces ester, but here because we have used ethanoic acid, it cannot be methanoate, it should be ethanoate. Okay, so again this is wrong, so it should be only 2 and 3, which is my option C. Okay. Next, 21. Which element forms an acidic oxide? So, we should know that metals form basic oxide and non-metals always form acidic oxide. Out of all four, sulfur is the only non-metal. Okay. Next, 22. Which statement describes the properties of hydrochloric acid? Now, hydrochloric acid is a strong acid. So first, carbon dioxide is produced when limestone reacts with hydrochloric acid. CO2 is produced when limestone is reacting. Yeah, limestone is calcium carbonate, CaCO3. So when calcium carbonate reacted with acid will release carbon dioxide. That is correct. Hydrogen is produced when sodium hydroxide reacts with hydrochloric acid. No, hydrogen will not be produced, water will be produced. Methyl orange turns yellow in strong hydrochloric acid. No, methyl orange turns red in case of acid, so that is wrong. Red litmus paper turns blue when dipped into hydrochloric acid. No, it should be other way round. Blue litmus should turn red, so even this is wrong. The answer is A. Elements P and Q have same number of electron shells. An atom of Q has more electrons in its outer shell, electron shell, than an atom of P. Which statements are correct? So P and Q have the same number of electron shells. Okay, the shells that they have are same. An atom of Q has more electrons in its outer shell than an atom of P. So Q is having more electron than P. Which statements are correct? P and Q are in the same group of periodic table. Now, if they would be in the same group, they should have same number of electrons in the outer shell. But what they have said that Q is having more electrons than P. So this is not possible. P and Q are in the same period of the periodic table. That could be correct because they have same number of electron shells. Okay, meaning they are in the same period of periodic table. P has a greater tendency to form positive ions than Q, and the oxide of Q is more basic than the oxide of P. So here it is said that Q has more electrons in its outer shell. If you know that metals have around 1, 2, 3 electrons in their outer shell, and non-metals have 4, 5, 6 or 7 electrons in their outer shell. Okay, so if Q is having more electrons, meaning P is having less electron than Q. So P is having a greater tendency to form positive ions. Okay, so C is also correct. The oxide of Q is more basic. That is not possible because if it has more electrons, meaning we can consider it is in the non-metal category, and hence it is a acidic oxide. So 2 and 3 is correct. So C is the correct option. 24th, which statement reacts with dilute sulfuric acid to form a salt that can be removed from the resulting mixture by filtration? Okay, so they have asked that which substance will react with dilute sulfuric acid to form salt and which is removed by filtration method. Now, here they have given the options: barium chloride, aqueous sodium hydroxide, copper, and copper to carbonate. Now, with the help of filtration, if we want to remove that, okay, so first is barium chloride. You will have to remember the solubility. Sodium hydroxide is a soluble, it's an alkali, okay, it's a soluble base, so that we cannot remove by filtration. Next is copper. Copper is a metal, okay, again it is not a salt. Then we have copper carbonate. Copper carbonate is again a base and not a salt here, okay. So the only product remaining is barium chloride. 25th, astatine is below iodine in group 7 in periodic table. Which row describes properties of astatine? So we should know that as we go down the group, the physical state of all the halogens is increasing from gas to solid. Okay, because astatine is below iodine, so it needs to be solid. Okay, we have C and D, and the reactivity. So as we go down the group, the reactivity decreases. So astatine displaces iodine but does not displace chlorine or bromine. It is not possible because iodine is above astatine, so astatine cannot even displace iodine. So does not displace chlorine, bromine or iodine. So D is the correct answer. 26th, which property of copper explains why it is classified as a transition element? Copper can be bent into different shapes. This is a general property of metals. Copper forms Cu2 plus and Cu plus ions. So here it is a property which is specific to transition elements, which is variable valency. Copper is a good conductor of electricity. Copper has a low density. Copper does not have a low density. Okay, it is having high density. And copper is a good conductor of electricity, which is again a general property of metals. So B is the correct answer, which specifically shows that due to its property of forming different ions, it is a transition element. 27th, brass is an alloy that is formed from copper and zinc. Which statements are correct? Brass, copper and zinc all conduct electricity. That is true. Brass is a compound of copper and zinc. Brass is not a compound, it is a mixture of zinc and copper. Brass is harder than zinc. Yeah, that is correct. alloys are stronger and harder as compared to the original metals. So 1 and 3 is the correct answer. Next, 28. The equation for the reaction of metal M with aqueous zinc sulfate is shown. M reacts with zinc sulfate to form MsO4 plus zinc. Which statement explains why metal M reacts with aqueous zinc sulfate? Now here the first statement says that zinc is less reactive than M because M is able to accept electrons from zinc ions. So if we consider here, if we dissociate it, it is Zn2 plus and SO4 2 minus. Okay, this Zn2 plus gets converted to Zn. Okay, so M is not accepting electrons from zinc. Basically, it is giving its own electrons to zinc. So first option is not correct. Zinc is more powerful reducing agent than M. Zinc is not acting as a reducing agent. It is acting as an oxidizing agent here. Okay, because zinc is actually accepting electron from M. Okay, so it itself gets reduced and acts as an oxidizing agent. Zinc is more reactive than M because it can lose electrons more easily than M. Again, zinc is not releasing its electron, it is accepting electron. Okay, zinc is itself accepting electron to convert from zinc cation to zinc atom. Okay, so that is also not correct. So zinc ions can remove electrons from M. So zinc can easily accept electrons from M to convert from zinc cation to zinc atom. Next, 29th. In the blast furnace, the impurity silicon 4 oxide is removed by formation of slag. Which equation represents the formation of substance which reacts with silicon oxide to form slag? So the first carbon plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide. That is the first, and A and B are the options which are the starting reactions. Okay, so they form the reducing agent. In C, it is calcium carbonate, which is thermally decomposed to form calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. And last is Fe2O3 plus 3CO gives Fe plus CO2, which is again reduction of iron oxide. So C is the correct one. Calcium carbonate is actually added to remove impurity from iron. 30th. Aluminium is extracted from bauxite by electrolysis. Which statement is correct? Aluminium ions are oxidized to form aluminium. Then the cathode has to be replaced regularly because it reacts with oxygen which is formed. Cathode is not replaced, anode is replaced, so B is not correct. Carbon dioxide is produced at anode, yeah, that is correct. Anode is made up of carbon and oxygen is being formed at anode. So due to high temperature, the carbon anodes react with oxygen to form carbon dioxide. Cryolite is added to remove impurities. No, cryolite is not added to remove impurities. It is actually added to lower the operating temperature. So C is the correct answer here. 31. Iron rusts but aluminium does not easily corrode. Which statement explains why aluminium does not easily corrode? It is an alloy. No, aluminium is a metal. It's not an alloy. It is below iron in the reactivity series. No, aluminium is above iron in the reactivity series. It is a transition element. No, iron is not a transition element. Aluminium is not a transition element. Iron is a transition element. Its surface is protected by an oxide layer. Yes. Aluminium reacts with oxygen from the atmosphere, forms aluminium oxide, and that forms a protective layer on the metal which does not allow it to undergo corrosion further. Next, 32. Which chemicals can be used as a fertilizer to provide the three elements needed for improved plant growth? Now for fertilizer, we require NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. So out of all the pairs, you just see where all these elements are present together. So in the first, we have nitrogen and potassium, but not phosphorus. In B, we have nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, all the three together. In C also we have only nitrogen and phosphorus. In D also we have nitrogen and potassium. So B is the correct answer. 33. What is the color change when water is added to anhydrous cobalt chloride? Anhydrous cobalt chloride is blue in color, and after adding water it should turn pink in color. So it's blue to pink, that is B. How do carbon dioxide and methane cause global warming? They emit the thermal energy they have absorbed back to earth. Yeah, that is true. They absorb the radiation directly from the sun. No, they absorb the reflected rays from earth. They increase thermal energy loss to space. No. They reduce reflection of thermal energy from earth's surface. No, they does not do that. So it's A. Next, 35. Four statements about photosynthesis are listed. Chlorophyll is required for photosynthesis. Yeah, that is correct. Equation for photosynthesis is C6H12O6 plus 6 oxygen giving us CO2 plus 6H2O. So this is the wrong equation. Glucose is the product which is being formed, so it should be reverse. It should be 6CO2 plus 6H2 giving us glucose and oxygen. Okay. Photosynthesis requires energy from light. Yeah, that is correct. We require sunlight also. Photosynthesis release carbon dioxide which can be lead to climate change. No, photosynthesis actually releases oxygen. So 1 and 3 is the correct option. Which molecules are structural isomers? So here, first of all, you will have to identify all of them. Okay. Here, the first one is an alkane. 1 and 3 both are alkanes, and 2 and 4 are alkenes. So let us count the number of carbons, because what are structural isomer? They have same molecular formula but different structural formula. Okay. So for the first one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbon atoms. Okay. And in the third also we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 carbon atoms. So we have 5 carbons in both the case. Okay. For second and fourth also, let us try. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 carbon atoms here. And in fourth one we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 carbon atoms. So 2 and 4 are having different number of carbon atoms. Okay. So it is 1 and 3 which have the same number of carbon and hydrogen atoms. So it is 1 and 3 which is B. Next, 37. Which statements about the reaction of ethene with steam are correct? Ethene and steam, they both react to make alcohol. The product has a higher molecular mass than ethane. Then the product reacts with aqueous bromine. No. Alcohol is being formed which is having carbon-carbon single bond, and it does not react with bromine. The number of electrons shared between carbon atom decreases. And last one is the reaction produces an alcohol and hydrogen. Alcohol is the only product, hydrogen is not formed. The number of electrons shared between carbon atoms decreases. So we can say yes. Ethene, it is a carbon-carbon double bond. So total there are two pairs of electrons, which is 4 electrons shared. And when it gets converted to a single bond, so it's less number of electrons which are shared. So that is correct. And the product has a higher molecular mass than ethane. So we can just find it out. When ethane reacts with steam, it forms ethanol, which is C2H5OH, and ethane is C2H6. So we can just find the MR of both of them. Okay. As we have found that option 2 and 4 are wrong. So it is 1 and 3 which is the correct options. Next, methane and chlorine react to form chloromethane. Which row describes necessary reaction conditions and type of reaction? Methane, when reacts, which is an alkane, reacts with chlorine, it is actually a substitution reaction which requires ultraviolet light. Okay, so the reaction condition is ultraviolet light and it is a type of substitution reaction. So A is the correct answer. 39. Parts of structure of two different polymers X and Y are shown. Which row about the monomers and the linkages between the monomers in polymers X and Y is correct? Now, if you see X and Y, the difference, first of all, you can see that on both the sides we have same functional group, whereas in Y on both sides we have different functional group. Okay, the linkage between both of them remains same. So monomers X and Y, they both are different here. Okay, so we have A and B where we have this option of different, and in case of linkages, the linkages in X are different from the linkages in Y. No, as I told you, the linkage remains same. So linkages in X is same as linkage in Y, so B is the correct answer here. Next, substance Q is tested using paper chromatography. The resulting chromatogram is shown. Which statement is correct? Q is a pure substance. No, Q is not a pure substance because you get two spots. If it is a pure substance, it should always give only one spot. The RF value of lower spot is 0.25, so that we need to find out. We'll just find it out. Q is a mixture of at least two different substances. Yeah, that is correct because we are getting two spots and hence we can say it is a mixture. Q is a compound of two elements. No, it is not a compound. If it is a compound, there should be again only one spot there. Okay, it should not give two different spots. So we'll just find out whether the RF value of lower spot is 0.25 or not. So we have our scale here. So in this case, for solvent we have 5.3, and for the lower spot they have said, okay, so from the baseline we have 1, 2 and 3. So the spot is 3, so it is distance traveled by spot upon distance traveled by solvent, which is 3 upon 5.3, which is equal to 0.56. So again that is wrong. So C is the correct answer.